Welcome to the Navigating Disability podcast, where you come to listen to real-life stories of resilience and hope. Today's speaker is a doozy. She's all those things and more. We're lucky to be speaking with Danielle Campo. Danielle is a world-renowned Paralympian, motivational speaker, author, and resilience expert. Danielle is a passionate advocate for people with disabilities and their mental health. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And we must say that she is here from Canada and it is
Yes.
9 p.m. over there. So I'm very, very thankful that you've stayed up to speak with us. Your story, Danielle, is so inspiring. Can you share a little bit about your journey and how you've built the life you have today? What were the key turning points for you?
Absolutely. So my story really starts at the age of 2 when I was diagnosed with a neuromuscular disorder. And, I come from a very sports family. So I have 2 older brothers who, like you said, I'm in Canada. So a natural thing, we all play hockey. So I had 2 very active brothers. And my mom noticed that I was falling all the time. So I would take a few steps and I'd fall, or I'd ask to be carried. And so she thought, something's not quite the way it was with the boys. And so she made a doctor's appointment, which led to a specialist appointment. And then at that time, I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. And so my parents share that story of their world just kind of shattering and, not knowing where to go, how to navigate, having a child with a disability. And I started, lots of physio and painful physio. And so my parents did what they knew, and they knew sports. So they, it wasn't going to be on the hockey rink that I would excel, but they put me in the water simply with the only goal of moving those muscles. And from there, the water was my freedom. And the water is where, I could do everything that anybody else could do. And so slowly we started to notice I could do it, and I could even do it a little bit better. And then once I started to beat my older brothers in the water, that competitive drive really started to grow. And as I learned more about living with a disability, I set my goals on becoming a Paralympic athlete. And the water for me was more of like that training ground, but also an ability to escape when, you'd go to school and there'd be bullying, or you would have, and so I would take all those difficult moments of living with a disability and trying to navigate, how do you get through this next struggle, and take it to the water so that I could just kind of let it go. And from there, I was able to reach that goal of being a Paralympic athlete.
And you said before, when we were talking, that was it your first Olympics were in Sydney,
Yes.
2000?
Yes. So I was 15 years old at my first Olympic Games. And I pretty sure my parents dragged me back on that airplane, because the minute I hit that ground in Australia, I said, I love this place. I don't want to leave. And they said, yeah, at 15, you're coming home. It was amazing to get to have your first Olympics in Australia, and being 15, but just the people and the way they embraced the Paralympians, as well as one of my dear friends and also competitors, Amanda Fraser, was from Australia. So we really had fun. I mean, if you're going to race in the Olympics, it's great to race from someone from the home country. So the crowds, and I'll never forget the school kids coming to watch. And so the stands were filled with kids, and that was so amazing. And that really started that spark for me of, you got to give this back to the kids.
And so how many Olympic Games have you competed in?
So I competed in 2. I was in 2000 in Australia, and then 2004 in Athens.
And what were your results from those Olympics?
Yes, so in 2000, I won 3 gold medals, and I broke 2 world records and a Paralympic record. And I also won a silver medal. And then in 2004, I won 2 bronze and a silver.
Pretty amazing outcomes. You must be
Yes,
very,
thank
very
you.
proud, and your family must be very proud of what you've achieved. How
Yes.
did you how did you know that you could do it? How did you not let your disability hold you back?
Yeah, I think for that question, it was a journey. It was a journey of my motto is not saying why me, but rather try me. And so
Love
getting
that.
through, yeah, right? Because we all have these things where we could turn inside internally and be like, ugh, why me? And to me, try me doesn't mean like I'm gonna fight this. It means at this moment, what do I need to just take that next step forward? What do I need to, who do I need to put in my corner or on my team to help me kind of excel? And so before the medals came or any of that, it was the way I felt. I always connected to the way I felt in the water. And that was more important than the results of the race for me. So if I got to a flight of stairs that I couldn't climb, or I saw those high heel shoes, for me, my disability really affects my lower extremities. So we all know when we have difficulty walking that all those beautiful shoes are just not made for us. So I would see those, beautiful shoes and I'd feel those feelings of like, oh, I want to be like that. And then I'd turn it into the water and say, okay, try me. So maybe I can't wear those shoes, but I'm going to swim 100 laps and I'm going to feel good about myself today. And then slowly the medals came as well. And so I was so excited to be able to say, I had to give that pain purpose. And that kind of carried me out through my journey.
And talking about who you had in your corner, I would have to assume that, your family were the most important people in your corner, and they're the ones that really pushed you and gave you the opportunities to be as successful as you are. What what was their involvement like?
Yes, I come from an amazing family. And so often we joke about my two parents actually don't really know how to swim, which is kind of really funny. My mom even says, like, I don't even think I like getting my face wet in the shower. So water was like not their world. So we always joke about that because often we'll get asked that, like, how did they push you? How did they help you succeed? Where I'd like bribe my mom to take me to 4 a.m. swim practice. Like, I'll buy you a coffee on the way to practice. So they were there to support me through the whole journey in their own ways. They were there to hold me on those times that I really needed that. Because I think you have to be real that although we want to imagine all the good, when you have a disability, there are those difficult moments. There
Absolutely.
are those hard times of, going to the doctor's office and not knowing what that next result is going to be, or, finding that new challenge. My family was there to celebrate the joy, but also were there to comfort me when that disability stole those moments that were supposed to be joyous. And for us, that was the biggest thing. And I think for me, watching them never give up and never say, we're not going to find a way you could do this. They really taught me that goal of, you be the best version of yourself, and that's good enough.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? How much strength they can actually give you. And they're
Absolutely.
going through their own set of issues of why us? Why my daughter? Why couldn't it be me?
Right.
So they're going through their own range of emotions. I'm sure throughout your journey you felt quite stuck or limited in things that you could do or your circumstances. How did you push past those to be able to get to where you wanted to get to?
It was really about learning how to speak your language. I really think when we talk about our disabilities, and everybody's stuck points are different, and sometimes you can see them and sometimes you can't, right? So for me, it was really learning how to advocate for my own needs. And being a Paralympic athlete, you learn that with, showing coaches, no, I can do this, or I just need you to get creative. I think when I think about this, the first thing that comes to mind is I can't jump, but I knew I could figure out how to dive. And maybe it wouldn't be the same as the other athletes diving into the water, but like gravity had to have some kind of pull in this. And if we just got me to a certain point, so really being able to say, why don't you just try me? Let's figure this out, how I can do this and do it in my own way. And then being okay with saying that sometimes it's going to take time, right? And there were going to be things that I had to say. I remember coming home one time, I went shopping with friends in like early high school, and I bought a pair of rollerblades. And I was so excited to come home and try these rollerblades on. And my mom was like, yeah, no, like
I don't
you
think
can
so.
stand, right? Yeah, you can stand in these rollerblades, but like, why? Like, this isn't you. And everybody else was rollerblading at the time, right? So it was trying to figure out that how do we navigate through these moments? And I think that goes on throughout life, right? You get those stuck moments of, I think, of starting my first job and constantly, I sometimes will describe my disability as a joy stealer. Those moments that are supposed to be joy are met with, oh my God, there's no railing on the graduation stage, or oh my goodness, I can't get into that university room because there's 8 stairs, and then having to constantly navigate, and being real to say like, that's hard, and sometimes you don't always want to fight the fight, right? And so I really would rely on my family for that.
It would be very tiring sometimes. It would be exhausting to have those obstacles put in front of you every single day. So, for example, like you just used the stairs at university. How did you get around that? Did you have good friends that could help you at uni, or were there some other solution?
Yeah. So I would really kind of share my story. And that's really how I became a speaker. So sharing my story to the prof, who one day said, why are you 15 minutes late? Like he, jokingly said, do you need a new watch? And I said, my disability isn't always visible. It is more when I'm tired. And so I shared with him, look, here's what I have to do to be at my starting point, the rest of everybody else's starting point. I have to give 110% because this building isn't accessible. So I have to go, walk to an office and get a key to use the elevator. It doesn't make any sense. And so then he was like, no, that's not okay. We're moving the class. So it was once I started to learn that sharing my story wasn't making excuses. And yes, we shouldn't always have to be so vulnerable, but then I would share my story so that the next person who couldn't get in that class had it a little bit easier. So it gave that, struggle purpose. And so I would have great friends, like you said, who would advocate for me. Like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
But isn't that amazing? Because I'm sure that professor actually had no idea what you had to
Mm-hmm.
go through to even be
Mm-hmm.
present at that class. So not only have you opened his eyes, but as you said, you've hopefully made the journey a little bit easier for everyone that comes after you. I'm a firm believer in that there is a solution for every problem. You might not
Mm-hmm.
see it at the time, but if you just sit back and think, you will come up with something. People just have to be open to receiving that feedback. Have you found in your time that people haven't been open to make, and it's not making life easier for you, it's making accommodations to put you on the same level as everybody else?
Yeah, I think that when people know, people do better. And what they don't know, we can't hold against them unless we educate them on what this looks like, right? And what this means. So it is difficult, to share your story. It is difficult to feel like you need to go in and ask for accommodations all the time, or that, you're going ahead of things constantly to, it's exhausting, like you said. How am I going to navigate this so that it works? But I always felt like when I would share it from a genuine, here's what I want you to know. I want you to connect before I even try to collect from you what I need just so I can be at my starting point like everyone else. I very rarely was met with resistance or with difficulty. However, there have been, a few times where that was their issue. And then I would say, okay, I've shared this and I know, and like you said, I'd sit back and think, how is the path to that next solution that's going to get this met? And I wouldn't take it personal. I would just wish them the best on their journey and say, something along the lines of, I just really hope you never need to understand this, because that means you haven't experienced this. And it's been very interesting to have some full circle moments with people that maybe have been my toughest critics, I would say, that have come back and said, I really had no idea. And now I see it so differently. And I'm so sorry. And I answer that with, wow, thank you, because now you do know, so you can do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say something similar. You can't truly understand what someone's going through until you've actually been in that position. Now, whether that's mental health with depression, anxiety, you never actually can. You can accept it and you can try to understand it, but until you've actually been through it, it's very,
Right.
very difficult to put yourself in their shoes. What advice would you give to someone who feels like their disability is holding them back? They've got all these passions, but they don't know how to get there.
I think the first thing I would say is take a deep breath and keep telling yourself you are enough, because it is so easy to feel that measuring stick, to feel like you're not enough. So I definitely would start there. And then I would say, what can you do? What is the best version of you? And sometimes that best version of you, whether it's physical disability or mental health disability, sometimes the best version of you is just saying, today is not my day and I'm going to try again tomorrow. And that's okay, right? Sometimes it's, taking that small step forward. So I would just say that we have to be our biggest supporters for ourselves. And we have to be okay with being, able to say that, this is a hard moment, but it's going to get better. And then I would say, find your place of freedom. I think we all have that place, right? And sometimes for people, it's just listening to a song. Sometimes, for me, it's diving in the water. I have two young children who were just recently diagnosed as well, with the same neuromuscular disorder that I have. So for me, we have a little mantra of like, I got to push through it to get through it. And when I hear my 3-year-old saying that, I'm like, okay, you practice when you feel good, because that's easier than when you're not having those good moments. So build that toolkit when you're feeling good, so that when you have those moments where you feel like that disability is that brick wall, you remember those tools and you pull them out of your backpack.
So that's a really interesting comment that you made. I wasn't aware of that you had two children that have just been diagnosed. How has that changed your perception from obviously being the disabled person and the disabled child to now being the parent of disabled children? Do you think you'll do it differently?
Yeah, well, it's been very interesting. So my 3-year-old just is very, very newly diagnosed, just 4 weeks ago, and my 5-year-old is just under a year. So my husband and I went through all kinds of genetic testing, and we're told there was a 0% chance that our children would have it. And then after I had my daughter, I went septic and was in a battle for my own life. And one single test revealed that I actually was wrongfully diagnosed and I had spinal muscular atrophy instead of muscular dystrophy. And I remember hearing the words spinal muscular atrophy and thinking, wait, that's genetic. And my doctor said, yeah, there's probably about a 50-50 chance. So with our 3 children and 2 of them being diagnosed, as a parent, I felt the words my mom and dad said of like their world shattering. And I had those minutes of thinking all of those awful things, right? All of those difficult moments of having a disability. And then I realized, wait, I know where to park the van so that they have that indent in the curb. I know how to tell the teachers where to put a chair so when they're tired, they don't have to fight their own story, right? It doesn't take away the pain that comes with having children diagnosed with a disability. But what it really did for me is it made me see maybe I walked this path so that I can make their path look a little different. Their world is never about hitting that wall of, I can't do this. Their whole world is about, I find my own way to do this because that's what mom does. And actually, kind of funny, in our family, our 8-year-old doesn't have a disability, and that's not cool. We always are telling him, like, you have healthy legs. Like, you're the one that doesn't have, and he's like, but I'm not the same as you three. And so we kind of laugh at, you know what, in our family, it's cool to have a disability because
The other
mom and
way
the other two,
around.
yeah, it's the other way around. But he is the best advocate for, hey, there should be a railing on those stairs, or hey, my sister and brother need this. And so, as a parent, it's very different. You navigate this very differently. And it's also my greatest challenge is stepping back and letting them struggle, because I truly believe in our struggles, we build our strength. And so I have to, step in when it's time and when they ask, or when that solution means I need mom or I need dad. We as their parents step in, but sometimes it means letting them kind of figure it out. And so it's been a new journey for sure.
And would you agree that being a parent, you do go through that grief process again of why me and I wish I could take it away. But from my perspective, having children with disabilities, and it's been hard. It's been the hardest journey I've ever been on. But oh my gosh, it's made me such a better parent. It's
Oh,
opened my eyes up to so many things. I mean, here I am talking to a Paralympian across the other side of the world. I would
yes.
never have done that had my children have not put me on this journey.
Absolutely. I think you really learn not to take things for granted, right? I think
Absolutely.
you celebrate the little successes, I think of, when they have the strength to put their own shoes on. That's a big deal in our house. When, those little moments of, watching them do something that you thought they would never do, you get those moments. And absolutely you grieve, and absolutely you fear. Kids can be mean, and as much as we try, that anti-bullying, all that stuff, I think that kids still, struggle. When you're different. And so yeah, I allow myself to have those moments. I allow myself and my husband to grieve and have those kind of down moments. And sometimes I literally set a timer and say, okay, now we got to go of what do we have? And I agree. Like 24 years later, getting to talk to someone in Australia and hear that my story's connecting even, across the world. I said to my husband, I'm going over there again and I'm gonna hug her and we're gonna
Well, when
we're
you
gonna
do, please let me know because
I
I would
will.
love to meet you in
Absolutely.
person. It's the people that I'm speaking to, really, I am in so much awe of what they've been through. And as I said, I wouldn't, well, maybe a bit more than 5 years ago, I was not this type of person. So I've really had to learn to accept and not be as hard on myself. I
Mhm.
very much wanted everything to be perfect, and I was always pushing the kids, and you want the best for them. But I've
Yeah.
realized now that that's actually not everything. Um,
Absolutely. I find even as someone who advocates for disabilities, I always was a bit self-conscious when I'd walk into a room because I walk differently. And so I was always thinking, is that the first thing people are noticing? And then slowly I've noticed since my two kids were diagnosed, it's an honor to walk like them. So I always feel like now, if I can be the person in the room that others are seeing and they say, hey, they walk the same. And my kids' friends don't notice. They're, one of my 8-year-old's friends said to another friend, "Oh, that's just Corbin's mom. That's how she walks." Like, it wasn't even like, why are you even bringing that up? Right. So it's funny. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think being on this journey of having children, we learn, like any parent, you learn new things every day, but you learn just how to love their light and how to ignite their light. And so they can be their own best version of themselves.
And one of my biggest things with children, and not even just children, adults as well, is there is so much potential there if people are taught or given the opportunities that they need to reach their potential. And it's not a, a boxed thing where everyone learns the same way, because they just don't. You obviously would have
Absolutely.
had different learning needs to what your children may have. So
Hmm.
everyone is an individual and everyone's needs need to be taken into account.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Obviously, you know, you're absolutely inspiring. If you could change anything in this world, what would you change? What do you want to see from society to bring disability into normality?
Mm. I want to see the word suffer stop appearing before the title of our disability. Our disabilities so often label us. And even with everything I've accomplished, I still get she suffers from. No, I don't suffer from this. I live with this. I navigate this. I deal with this. But suffering is such a victim of, like, oh, that sadness, right? And so I would love to see people say, despite this, she's doing this, right? And not letting her stop the fact that she doesn't rock 6-inch high heels, but look what she's doing in flat shoes, right? So stop making it about that sadness around having a disability. And it's like what you said, highlighting the individual, letting that individual's strength shine, and maybe I can't run a marathon or do this, but I can get up on a stage and share my story. And some people are terrified of public speaking. So it's, we're all unique in our own way. And I really would want also us to be able to celebrate those moments of success together, united.
And there's a lot of people in this world that can't actually get in a pool and swim.
Right. I guess that's true.
Absolutely. Do you think your children will follow in your footsteps?
Okay, so this is like the saddest thing in my life right now. So my 3-year-old actually is showing us that she loves the water. My 8-year-old hates the water. So he's all about, we call soccer football for you guys, right? He's all about soccer. So I'm learning how to be a soccer mom. And the 5-year-old likes to play in the water, but has no desire to do any kind of swimming as of yet. So fingers crossed, but it doesn't look like I'm going to be a pool mom anytime soon. And that's okay. We're going to celebrate where they want to go. My daughter is a very girly girl. She's the 3-year-old. I was not a girly girl. So if anybody has any advice for surviving these sparkly shoes and dance classes, I will take all the advice I can get.
I'm a mother of 3 boys, so I am absolutely not the right person to talk to about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Um,
bring I'm trying to bring rugby here because I think my boys would do awesome in that.
Maybe you should just move to Australia.
I don't know. It sounded pretty good.
Absolutely. So what does your future hold, Danielle? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time, knowing that we've got the Olympics in 2032 in Brisbane? I
Yes.
would love to see, going to use the wrong wording here, the normal Olympics and the Paralympics run
Yes.
together at the same time, all
Amazing.
inclusive,
Yeah.
no difference between disability,
Right.
no disability.
Right. I think that's a beautiful dream, and I don't see why it couldn't happen. Maybe I need to mark my calendar as my return trip back. And yeah, that gives me, I think in 5 years time, I want to continue growing as a speaker. You know, here we have an inspirational speaking competition. It was North American wide, and so I was just crowned inspirational speaker of the year. So I know that you know, my story's getting out there. I wrote my book Resurrection, so I have a copy here. It's available on Amazon. And so just continuing to connect with people all across the world, sharing my story. And this is what I think is so important, building these bridges so that other people can recognize themselves in our talking and say, hey, I want to go here. And one of my favorite things is when someone says, I heard you talk, and this is what I've accomplished. And for me, that is the greatest accolade of you're doing what you need to do. So, you know, as we all kind of navigate our own journeys, I think when we connect before we collect from each other, magic happens. So my job and goal is to just keep sharing my story and traveling and meeting new people like yourself so that, you know, now you can say, I have a friend in Australia that gets it, right? And we're helping the world to come together and get it.
And you've said a couple of times now, connect before you collect. I love that. That's amazing because that's what it all is. It's all about that. Let's connect.
Absolutely.
Let's see what we can do together because we're always stronger together than we are individually.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where, what do you, what do you want to do or what do you want to change in disability?
Hmm. I I know we're never going to get rid of disabilities. I know that that is not, but I want to highlight the ability. I think you said it so great. In every individual, there's the things we can do, right? And it's so highlighting that, you know, I might not, and I know all different kinds of words go around and different ways of saying it, but wouldn't it be amazing that if you were diagnosed with a disability, it didn't mean that you were going to face all of these struggles in society. It meant society was just going to open their arms and say, what do you need to be the best version of yourself? And I think that for me, that would be the greatest thing is that when I really look to the root of the fear and the sadness, it comes from that fear of the unknown in two different ways, right? It comes from the fear of the medical unknown of what is your body going to do. And we know when you have your health, it's the most important thing. But then it also comes from the challenges that you're going to face because of the way that society is. So for me, it's about changing that so that it's like, yes, I have this, but look at my abilities. Look at what I can do.
I love that. That is so true. It's yeah, look at the positives, not the
Mhm.
negatives.
Absolutely.
We've loved sharing today's show with you, and we hope our intention to make a difference has come through, that you can now share it with your loved ones. Feel free to check out the show notes for any of the links, and you'll be able to stay connected with Danielle or ourselves. Please go to our Facebook page to engage with us at facebook.com/navigating disability. And wherever you're listening or watching this show, please give us a thumbs up, a heart, or a 5-star rating. Share this show with as many people as you can, and let's make the world of disability a better place, one conversation at a time. Thanks so much for your time, Danielle. It was absolutely inspiring to listen to you talk, and I do hope to see you in Australia at some stage.
Deal. I'm going to tell my husband, Brisbane 2032. It's on the to-do list.
Excellent. Bye for now,
Excellent.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.